But yeah, I'm Ravyn. I'm the creative director for the Ravyn Evermore, which is my brand for all the various things that I do, from tabletop to art to voice acting, streaming, and a whole ton of different things. I'll throw the link to my link tree in the chat room there, which if you're catching it on YouTube, it's linktr.ee/the RAVVYN. And that has all the other links to my Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, etc., etc. I'm going to try to get through this information quickly because there's a ton to cover on this topic. I highly recommend taking notes if you can. And I will try to leave enough time at the end to get to some questions, because I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions about this particular topic. But yeah, we'll just jump right in. So, Advanced Guide to Streaming, I'm going to kind of build off of what we did in the first presentation, which was the basic guide to streaming. So, assuming you've completed everything that we talked about earlier, you've started a channel, now what is usually the question. Once your channel's built, you've picked out all your equipment, your software, your aesthetic, everything else, the next step is to build a following. And you do that by marketing yourself. So building a following can be quite difficult. It is not a fast process by any stretch of the imagination. There are some lucky few that, they throw stuff out there and it just kind of catches on like wildfire, and they build up a following super fast, but that is definitely the exception and not the rule. So it's definitely more of a marathon and less of a sprint for this. So to build a following, you want to market yourself. That involves social media, getting out there, talking about your shows, communicating with other people on social media. A lot of times people forget the social aspect of networking that way. You actually do have to go out and make actual friends. You legitimately have to be interested in what other people are saying. If you just go out there throwing stuff out like a billboard, you're not going to get very far. So build a following by marketing yourself and networking, but do that marketing from a genuine standpoint. Really, Twitch in particular, streamers are really good about promoting each other. It's very unlike any other industry that I've ever been in, where anybody that's technically your competition also acts like your competition. With streamers, we tend to lift each other up quite a bit, even though technically we are competing for views. So to reach Twitch affiliate, which if you've chosen Twitch as your platform, and that's the one I'm going to talk about the most because that's the one that I'm on and I have the most experience with. If you've reached or if you've made a channel on Twitch and you want to reach Twitch affiliate, which means you can start collecting money from bits and subscriptions and things like that. One, you have to have at least 500 total minutes broadcast in the last 30 days, which is not too bad. If you stream for a couple of hours, a couple times a week, you can probably get that without too much of an issue. The second thing that you have to have is you have to have at least 7 unique broadcast days in the last 30 days. Again, if you broadcast a couple times a week over 4 weeks, it's not hard to get there. An average of 3 concurrent viewers or more over the last 30 days is the next step. And that one's a little bit harder to get. And that's the average is what kind of kills you there. So what it means by concurrent or simultaneous viewers is at any given time, you have to have an average of 3 people actively watching you. And Twitch is a little bit weird about it, because if you just have somebody like pull it up, hit the mute button, and then go to a different tab, a lot of times Twitch won't count that as a view. Sometimes it will, but a lot of time they won't. So you have to have people that actually have that tab open and are watching for that to really count. Having some dedicated friends who are willing to have that open every time you stream can really help with that. But also doing some different things to network and get people to watch you more is obviously going to help a lot more in the long run. And then finally, you have to have at least 50 followers. And that total can sound pretty intimidating when you're first starting out. But just remember, you don't have to hit affiliate at 30 days. Unless you, for some reason, have a set deadline from somebody else, you really don't have to put that much pressure on yourself to get to it really, really quick. You can take your time with it, learn, get some experience, get more comfortable in front of the camera and everything. So it takes time. Don't feel too discouraged if it takes you a little while. The next point I have is how to get to affiliate, which is, I mentioned networking quite a bit, but specifically networking with streamers on Twitch. I also quite frequently recommend rating, also rating, and thirdly, go raid people. I see so many Twitch streamers who don't raid at the end of their streams. And it blows my mind because it's really leaving opportunities on the table. So I really stress that quite a bit when I'm consulting other people who are trying to get started. If you don't know what a raid is, when you're watching a Twitch stream, the streamer at the end of their stream, before they sign off, can choose another channel to quote unquote raid. And what happens is their stream ends, and it basically takes them and all of the viewers over to that other person's channel and just sort of plops them down. There's usually an announcement in chat. A lot of streamers will have a raid alert that'll show up on their screen. And it's a way that you can take whatever viewers you have, even if it's just a couple, you can take those over to another channel, and now you've brought viewers, potentially brand new viewers, to this other person's channel, which, of course, we're all going to be appreciative of. And in that same token, whoever's watching their channel is going to see your name, going to see you come in. You can hang out, talk a little. Usually they'll ask you about your stream, so you can talk a little bit about it, and potentially you'll get some followers from that. Also, if you raid somebody, there's a good chance they'll raid you back if there's an opportunity later down the line. So raiding is a great way to cross-promote each other on Twitch. And it's a really, really useful tool. Next, work your goal of affiliate into conversation. And by that, I don't mean jump into chat streams or into stream chats rather, and start begging for help, or opening up with, hey, I really need help getting an affiliate, or I'm this close or whatever. But you can casually mention it in conversation. Usually when you raid or when you hop in and you start talking to streamers, they're going to ask you, how are you? It's classic standard opener for conversation. And generally it's going to be okay to say, hey, I'm doing great. I'm really excited because I'm only X number away from affiliate and I'm really working on that. And I've been having a blast doing it. Things like that. Generally, most people aren't going to be too bothered by that. But if you hop in without any prompting and start talking about it, that's when it gets kind of taboo. It's not great Twitch etiquette. And then when you approach it conversationally, most streamers, myself included, are usually pretty happy to throw some signal boosting your way, or send people to go follow you to help you get to affiliate. And by signal boosting, I mean they'll say, "Hey, what's your Twitter?" They'll go retweet what you posted about yourself or your stream, and things like that, or they'll raid you later or something like that. So networking is a big part of it. Once you get there, a lot of the times people will get to, all right, I hit affiliate, I got my channel, I got 50 followers, I hit affiliate, now what? The first thing, because I see a lot of people go, sweet, I hit affiliate, next step, partner. And it's a hard truth to recognize that partner is very likely years away, if ever. While affiliate is relatively easy to achieve, I gave you the stats for what you need for that. Twitch partner is a very difficult, long process. And it's also important to understand that you don't need partner to be successful on Twitch. It's really nice, but you don't have to have it to be a successful full-time streamer. And if you're only doing it part-time or as a hobby, definitely don't need to worry about partner. So requirements for partner. One, you have to stream for 25 hours in the last 30 days. That's, if you're doing it full-time, not hard at all. I'm hitting that right now. You have to stream for 12 unique days in the last 30 days. Again, Not too hard. I'm easily hitting that right now. The third one's where they get you. You have to reach 75 average viewers in the last 30 days. And that's average. So if you're getting up to 75 occasionally, that's not going to do it. Usually to get that average, you've got to have points where you're getting 100 or more simultaneous viewers in your streams. Because you have to account for the very beginning when people are trickling in, the end where people start dropping off. And if you have a stream where just nobody shows up, that can super affect that number. So it's hard to get to that number. Once you do get there, you can apply for partner. Affiliate's pretty much automatic. But when you hit that number, you'll get invited to apply for partner, and then they can still reject you. There are colleagues of mine who did a ton of work, streamed for years, and had to apply 3, 5. One person was even 13 times before she got partner. And she was easily pulling in those numbers and doing a great job. So it's a long process. Don't make partner your gotta have it right now goal, because it takes a long time. But there's plenty that you can do at the affiliate level to be successful. Next thing that you want to do, now that you've picked some branding, you've picked a color palette, a logo, maybe you've got a few emotes picked out, or at least concepts figured out. Refine your brand at that point. You want to figure out what resonates with viewers and what does not. And don't be afraid to make changes. So one thing that that Twitch really pushes is a average viewer count. So average simultaneous viewers. That's the 75 and the 3 that we were talking about earlier. It's a great number for Twitch to follow. It's a horrible number for you to follow. It doesn't tell you enough. It's very big picture. So you can do a lot of things that make significant changes to how people interact with your stream. And it might not even be represented at all in that number. And if it is, maybe it's just like a 0.1 on that number. So what you want to look at are things like minutes watched, unique live viewers, users in chat, people who are actively chatting. And that tells you if you're getting an increase in engagement, an increase in people watching, and you can fine tune a lot from there. Twitch has a lot of analytics that they don't necessarily show you right out at the gate. So you have to kind of click around and find those. But they're very, very useful. Especially when you're trying new things, like you're trying a new intro, or if you're doing a show where you need a break in the middle, like my tabletop shows, after about an hour and a half, we take a 15-minute break to let everybody hydrate, grab snacks, stretch their legs, etc. And so if you're trying a different break time or something different during the break to try to keep people in, those numbers are going to reflect that a lot more than your average viewer number. Because it's just, I described it once. It's like trying to inspect a house from 2,000 feet in the air. It's great if you're trying to look at a neighborhood like Twitch is doing. But if you're only interested in your one house, it doesn't give you a very good picture. So go with those other numbers. They'll also be infinitely more encouraging. When I first started, I got super discouraged because I saw my number just sitting in the same spot. And then I figured out what I needed to look at, and I was like, oh, no, I'm seeing a lot of growth. It's just not showing up in that one metric because it's so big picture. Also, you want to focus on building up your following. I mentioned that already. So being active and networking on multiple social media platforms. For me, I go with Twitch quite a bit, or not Twitch, Twitter, the other TW platform. Twitter, I interact most there. It's the social media platform I'm most familiar with, I'm most comfortable with, and it's just easy for me to converse on it. But whichever one you are drawn to most, it's fine. Just make sure you're interacting and engaging there consistently. But also don't ignore the other ones. So, for example, I interact a lot on Twitter, but I'm still posting show announcements when we go live, things like that, art that I post for the shows every day on Instagram and Facebook. And then at the end of the week, I'll take whatever clips I've amassed. So if I've made clips of my own shows, or if viewers have clipped the show, I've got a spot in my Discord where they can throw those clips in. I download all of those and get those over to TikTok. So each different platform gives you more exposure, but the difference is significant. So a following are people that just watch you. They like seeing what your content is, and they consistently catch the show and they add to your viewer numbers. A community is somebody that likes what you do and likes to talk about what you do and wants to talk to other people about what you do. So I've got a community called the Black Feather Guild on Discord, and we talk about tabletop games. We talk about video games, Magic, The Gathering, all kinds of different stuff that we talk about on there. And we've even got channels for people to talk about, if they're really struggling, having a bad mental health day, they can talk to other people. Whoever has the spoons to do that can respond. So we've really built a community that helps each other out, and it's based around what we do on the channel, the tabletop shows that we do. So having that community really, really helps. You get very loyal followers that way, and it's also a great way to help build each other up. A lot of the people in my community are also streamers, and we help support each other. We send promotions their way. We hype them up when they're doing stuff, and vice versa. And so it's really a way for the community to build each other up all at the same time. So I highly recommend working on that. And there's a lot of resources out there for how to do that properly, because there's also a lot of bad ways to do that, where you want to make sure you're not taking advantage of people. For example, don't ask for a lot of free labor from people. If somebody volunteers, that's awesome. But make sure you're not taking advantage of people just because they want to impress you or they want to be involved. So definitely look up resources on how to build a community correctly. I'm also a resource for that. I mentioned consulting services for administrative and creative projects. And I'm certainly not the only one. So if you want somebody to help walk you through it, and have one-on-one consultation like that, that's also an option. And then thirdly, definitely build a Discord. Discord servers are free. You don't have to pay anything if you don't want to. There's some paid options, of course, but you don't have to do that by any means. And it's a great way to keep people in touch, communicate with your following and your community, and just have a lot of fun. We've got a really active Discord, and I absolutely love it. I'm on there all the time. Next is be consistent with your streaming. So you've got to make a schedule and stick to it as much as possible. It's okay to skip days when you need to. Burnout is a real thing. So if you are feeling really burnt out, or if you're just sick that day, or something like that, absolutely take the time that you need to take care of yourself. But try to stick to that schedule as much as possible. Missing a stream or two here and there is not really going to hurt you, but missing 3 or 4 or 5 streams in a row absolutely will. So try to stick to it as much as you can. Stick to your start time as much as possible, and that will help quite a bit. Also, communicate with your following. So you want to let them know when you're going to be streaming. Make a schedule graphic if you can. I've got one I will throw into chat here, so you can see kind of what that would look like. But making that graphic and having it out there, posted in prominent places on your social profiles, etc. All of that is gonna help quite a bit. There we go. So I'm putting that into the chat now, so you can see my current season graphic. So those are all the streams, the GMs for the games that are on my channel, the titles and things like that. All of that's really helpful for potential viewers, because if they see that, they know, oh, cool, that sounds like a cool game, or hey, I know that person that's GMing, or I know that guest that's going to be on the show with so and so. I'll go check it out. And they'll put it on their calendars and things like that. Also, let them know what you're planning and thinking about doing. So if you're planning something in the future, it's not ready yet, but you know that you're going to do it later. Talk about that. Get them excited about it. For example, I'm next season, which starts in March. No, wait. months are hard. May, the other M one. It starts in May. I am planning on doing something that's got some like Skyrim influences in it with my own tabletop system. And I just posted a couple of pictures. I posted the logo for Fundamental RPG and a picture from Skyrim. And I said, I'm thinking about combining elements of these two things next season. And people got really excited about it. And now they're thinking about it. So when I announced later, hey, I'm doing a casting call. I'm looking for cast members for this. People have already seen that. They already know about it. And likely some of them have been waiting eagerly for that. So communication with your following is really important as well. Also, let them give you feedback and make sure that they feel like their input genuinely matters. Communities will naturally feel some sense of ownership. And while establishing boundaries is very important, especially as the streamer or the community lead, giving them some measure of influence on the channel is also important to make sure people stick around. I've had features that I've implemented on shows that I thought were great, and they sounded great on paper. And I've gotten feedback from viewers and cast members that were like, I really don't like this. It's pulling things. It's detracting from my enjoyment of the show. And as soon as I heard that, I listened to it. I took it into consideration and went, okay, yeah, I think you're right. And I pulled it off immediately and changed it. So having that kind of feedback is important, and making sure people feel listened to is also important. And that doesn't mean that you're going to do everything that somebody suggests. But as long as they know that you've heard them and that you've carefully considered it, that's really going to go a long way. Next, we've got, I'm going to try to go through these a little bit faster because we're running out of time to make sure we get plenty of questions in. So number 5, monetize your stream. This is a big one. So you want to promote subscriptions to your channel on Twitch because number 1, you get cool emotes. As soon as you hit affiliate, you get, I believe it's 1 tier 1, 1 tier 2, and 1 tier 3 emote slot. But the more subscriptions you get up to a certain point, you can unlock, I think, up to 5 tier 1 emote slots. And those emotes are a big reason that people subscribe, because then they can use those on other channels and throw those out there, and it's great representation for your channel. So definitely promote subscriptions, especially until you unlock all the emote slots. 2, thank people on the stream for subscriptions. It'll come up in the chat, but when you audibly say, hey, thank you so much for that subscription. And if you have subscription rewards that happen on stream as well, that's pretty cool. But thanking them audibly really makes a big difference for people that are doing so. And then I mentioned offer other incentives for subscriptions or cheers, something that can be seen on screen. So you could do like something as simple as an alert that pops up. I've seen a lot of people do Post-its or little things that will be physically around the streamer. And then, of course, there's other things like Bean Boozled that a lot of people do, or eating hot sauce or some random chaotic thing like that. Those are options as well, depending on the mood of your stream. So that's important. Once you get all the emote slots unlocked, depending on what your goals are, subscriptions may not be as important at that point. Because until you hit partner, you can't unlock any more emote slots, and Twitch does take 50% of the subscription fee. So if somebody pays $5 for a subscription, you're only seeing $2.50 of that. And obviously that's a steep fee. That's a big hit to your income, which is why I also recommend having a non-Twitch method of donation. So I mentioned the subscription fees take 50%. You get 100% of the bits that are thrown at you. But for the person buying them, it's 140% markup. So they will, for 100 bits, which is supposed to be like $1, they'll charge $1.40. And that's a big percentage. So it's not coming directly out of your pocket, but it is coming out of your viewer's pocket, and they're having to spend more to give you less. So having a non-Twitch method of donation means that you get to keep more of the money that people are trying to give you to support you. So I personally use Streamlabs. They give you a website for free. It's a very basic website, but it's a spot that you can link up to your PayPal, where people can go and donate money directly. PayPal fees are anywhere from 3 to 5%, depending on the type of PayPal account that you have, and that's a whole lot better than 30% at the least to 50% at the most that you're getting hit by from Twitch. Coffee is also an excellent one. I have that option on my stream as well, and that's ko-fi. It's a fantastic site. They're doing a lot of really cool stuff to help creators. It's a bit like Patreon. They're getting closer to Patreon every month, I swear. But you can also set up a shop on there, like a store. Lots of really cool stuff. But it's also a really easy way to get donations. And again, you can tie your PayPal right into it, and you're only paying 3 to 5% fee on that. So yeah, non-Twitch method of donation is very important. Patreon and coffee. I've already talked about coffee a bit, but Patreon as well is great. The reason that I really like Patreon is because it's a monthly pledge of support. And generally people don't just drop it immediately. So with Patreon, you can make better projections of what your income is going to be. And so you can plan your own expenses, figure out what new projects you can afford to go into, because you've got this number on Patreon that says, hey, I'm going to make X amount next month from this. So I really like Patreon for that reason. Generally, most people will subscribe to you on Patreon and then completely forget about it. So it's not guaranteed income every month, but it's a lot more guaranteed than Twitch donations. And then finally, once you do start getting a decent following built up, you've got a strong community, you've got people that listen to you, and it doesn't have to be a massive following or anything like that. Start looking for sponsors. It's not an easy process. You are going to have to seek them out, and you're going to have your numbers handy. So the minutes watched, the unique viewers, all those things that I talked about earlier, you're going to want to have those approach them. So making a professional email template that you can then personalize for each opportunity is a really good idea. And then obviously having the numbers in that is going to be great, but you want to adjust that for the current numbers. Obviously you can't really template that because your numbers are going to change every month. And then make sure the sponsors that you approach line up with the values and the image of your brand. If your channel is all about cooking recipes, then looking for sponsors who are adjacent to cooking is going to be your best bet. If you do a cooking show and then you're hitting up a company that makes gaming chairs, it's not a really good match. And they're going to say something along those lines to you. And then also you need to understand and accept early on that a lot of sponsorships are actually going to be affiliate marketing opportunities. And that means, especially early on when you're still building up your following in your community, you're not going to get money thrown at you to have their logo up and have you talk about them every month. It's not going to be, we'll pay you X amount to put this up there. It's going to be, we'll set you up with an affiliate link. You can talk about it, and then any sales we get from your link, we'll give you, a small percentage. So the nice thing about that is it doesn't cost you anything, really, but also it doesn't make you anything unless you see the sales from it. So be careful with those. Don't take on a ton of affiliate sponsorship deals, because then you have way too many marketing ads on your stream. But at the same time, the ones that you do take, make sure that that's something that you feel you're actually going to be able to make sales on. Otherwise, maybe just have one on there for a while, just so people see, like, oh, cool, they're sponsored, or they have an affiliate relationship with a company. It gives you a little bit of a sense of credibility, and so having one or two on there can be good from that regard. But generally, if you don't think you're going to be able to really make a lot of sales with that, it's better to just hold off and wait for a true sponsorship opportunity later down the line. So the things to keep in mind, you kind of have to balance the pros versus the cons on that. Let's see here. Next, we've got analytics. We've talked a little bit about this already. Actually, I think I already covered all of that. So again, focusing on numbers like unique viewers, total minutes watched, unique chatters. That's another really important one. The more people chatting in your stream that you have shows a lot of engagement. And a lot of companies are going to look for that active engagement to see that people are really interested in what you're doing rather than just turning it on and walking off and doing something else and just sort of what they call lurking. Lurk viewers are still great. It still gives you more viewers. But if they're there and actively participating in what's going on, that's even better. And then, I already mentioned keep track of those numbers when you try new things. That way you can tell what's working and what isn't. Also with that, give yourself enough time to get a true sample of what you're doing. So if you try something new for a week, don't just go, oh, well, my numbers dropped off after that week, so it doesn't work. There's a lot of other factors that could contribute to that. So try that new thing for, say, a month, and then look at the numbers and see how they're doing. So don't get too focused on the small picture that you see patterns that aren't actually there. Cross promoting yourself on social media. I mentioned that a little bit already. Totally fine to have your preferred social media platform, but make sure you are also promoting yourself on other platforms as well. And again, TikTok is a fantastic place for streams because generally, once you get a certain amount of viewers and following, they're going to be clipping your streams because they find funny moments and they're like, oh, I got to clip that. And when they throw those links out there, you can grab those, you can download them, and it's really easy to just download the file, upload it right into TikTok, put a little caption on there that directs them back to the stream, and you're done. It doesn't take too much work at all. Let's see here. Got ahead of myself in my notes here. So I'm trying to find where my train of thought was going again. So back to the topic of monetization and things like that, and other incentives that you can give people. The hot sauce, the Bean Boozled, stuff like that. It's always fun, but people will get tired of that eventually. So what I like to do for my streams, especially since they're tabletop related, I like to give bonuses or buffs to the players or cast members or the GMs that people can use. So specifically for tabletop, they can affect the game and the story that's happening around everything that's going on through their donations. So for example, most of the time they can donate $2 and add a D6 to either the cast pool or the GM pool. And that means that any of them can just grab one of those, roll an extra D6 on whatever it is they're trying to do to give themselves an extra chance, a little bit better odds at achieving what they're trying to achieve. And that's just $2. We also do that for retweets. So when we hit 5 retweets, the cast gets a D6. We hit 10, the GM gets a D6, and so on. That's a really easy way to do it. And then at $8, there's an advantage. So if you donate $8, you can give advantage to a player. And that just means that they roll twice and take the better of the two results. Again, increasing their odds of achieving what they're trying to do. At $10, you can do a disadvantage, which is kind of rude, but it's also kind of fun, which means they have to roll twice and take the worst of the two results. So if somebody's been having amazing rolls all night in their game, somebody can donate $10 and say, well, the next one's going to be a little harder. We've got $15, which is 3 crits that you can give to the GM or the cast or split up between them, which basically means they can use one of those and they auto-succeed at something. Or if it's the GM, maybe they auto-succeed at countering something that the players are trying to do. And then finally, we can do up to $25, which is an asset or a challenge. And an asset is the cast collectively gets to choose a single-use item or scenario or situation that would make things easier for them that session. And if it's a challenge, then the GM gets to throw in an environmental hazard, or a new encounter or some scenario that's going to make it a little bit harder on the party. So these are ways that for tabletop shows in particular, the viewers can have some influence over the show. They feel like they're getting something for that donation, not just saying, "Hey, I like what you're doing, have some money." But it's also done in a way that doesn't take any agency away from my players. They're not being told, well, your player does, or your character does this now instead. All of the control still lies with the GM and the players, but the viewers are still influencing it, which is pretty cool. So those are some ideas just for tabletop stuff. If you're doing video games or something else, you can have things like, I don't know, like you have to play that level with one eye closed, or something like that. Something to make it more challenging. There's a lot of different things that you can do that make people feel like they're getting something for their donation. And then also, last thing that I'll mention before we go to questions, there are channel points that Twitch has for affiliates, and you can name them whatever you want. Ours are called guild coins, for example, because we're very my channel's called the Black Feather Guild, and we're very tabletop focused. And people get those just for watching. They accumulate over time. If they're subscribed, they accumulate twice as fast. And those are non-monetary ways that you can reward people for hanging out and watching, which is great for folks that can't afford to donate, which there are quite a few. But for those, I have a couple options on there where you can have players swap seats for 5 minutes, including the GM. So I've GM'd several sessions where I've swapped spots with a character, and now that cast member is GMing for 5 minutes, and I'm playing their character. Of course, we all have the understanding that we're not going to do anything super critical or important during those 5 minutes. But it's a lot of fun because I get to try to emulate the way that they talk, their mannerisms and things, and a player gets to GM for 5 minutes and throw some crazy stuff into the mix. That's all fun and games. We also have one where you can make a player rhyme for 3 minutes. So literally everything they say has to rhyme at the end of the sentence for 3 minutes, and it's a lot of fun. It doesn't complicate two things or disrupt the stream too much, but people feel like they get to be involved. And that's ultimately what those incentives are for, is to make them feel like their interactions matter and that they are involved in what's going on. So a lot of information there. Any questions on what we've covered or stuff that we haven't covered?
So we did have Thornbriar ask, how many followers before you can look at making any real money through streaming?
That's a great question, and I don't want to discourage you. But to give you an idea of what I make, I've been doing this full time for about 1.5 years. I make about $3 an hour. It is, if you're in it for the money, it's definitely a long road to get there. I do this because I love it and because my situation just kind of forced me into this. When I first started doing it full time, I was a COO for a retail data analysis company, and due to unforeseen circumstances outside of my control, the company basically kind of went under. There was no communication from another department of the company that let us know that we were in big trouble. And the company went under, and I found myself without a job or income. I sent out 250 job applications, got maybe a dozen interviews, a couple of callbacks after that. And generally the consensus I got from everybody was, wow, you're so qualified. You are overqualified for this job, so we're going with somebody else. And I was like, that's great. I know I'm overqualified, but I still need a job. So after 2 or 3 months of that, I was like, well, I've been streaming and I can do tabletop shows. I guess I'll try doing this full time. So I started doing that, found out I absolutely adore this job. There's nothing else I'd rather be doing. And with the growth that I'm making, I know it will eventually support me. Right now I have really awesome friends that are letting me live with them, giving me room and board, so I don't have to worry about that while I build this up. But just like any other business that you're going to build, you're not going to make a lot of money your first few years in business. So there are definitely exceptions. I've had people that have started after me that have gotten a bigger following that make a lot more money off of their streams. There is a certain amount of luck involved. But as long as you're working it smart and you're dedicated and you keep working at it, you will eventually get there. But it's just like anything else. You have to build it up. And that's going to be a lot of, to use the metaphor, blood, sweat, and tears, and pouring your soul into it before it will give you those returns that you want.
Excellent, thank you. So Tia asks, I missed the beginner streaming panel. What's your recommended basic streamer setup of software, hardware?
Oh, sure. So your hardware, just look for whatever's going to run the game that you want to run, and then go a little extra than that. So if it's like for graphics cards or CPUs, if the recommended settings are what you have, keep in mind that your computer also has to run that and the streaming software, which is going to take up a lot of resources. So get more computer than what your game needs if you're doing PC games. If you're doing consoles or something like that, you don't have to be nearly as picky. Surprisingly, a stronger CPU or processor is more important than a strong graphics card in that case, because streaming software is very CPU intensive. So that and RAM. So that's what I would look at. And as far as software goes, I'm currently using Streamlabs OBS because the interface is really nice. It's very easy to set everything up. It's definitely a resource hog, though. In hindsight, I wish I had started with just plain OBS. It's not quite as user-friendly, but it uses a lot less resources. But at this point, I've already built everything in Streamlabs, and I don't want to redo it. So that's ultimately why I haven't switched. But if your computer can handle all that resource drain, my computer is honestly kind of old. So if your computer can handle it and you're not worried about it, Streamlabs is fantastic.
Excellent, thank you. Jeff asks, besides gamers, what are some of the Twitch streaming communities out there?
Besides gamers, that's a good question. There's a lot of different types of shows that you can find on Twitch and a lot of communities. A friend of mine does knitting and crochet, and she makes thread and stuff like that. So fiber crafts, yarn, knitting, things like that. And she's building up a big following. So there's a community around that. Virtually anything that you can put on a show, you can build up a community around that in Twitch. There are talk shows, there are cooking shows, and all of these have their own following as a niche in whole, and then communities for each channel as well. Singing is also another one, and music. With that one, you just have to be careful, especially right now, because Twitch is getting hit hard by the music industry for copyright violations, and they are in turn kind of hitting streamers hard for it. So you have to make sure it's all original music or something that you own a license to. For my streams, I use a lot of custom music from a site that I have a subscription through that gives me licenses to use it. So that's an option. But if you're wanting to sing or play music or stuff, it has to be your original stuff. Covers are pretty iffy.
All right, we've got a question. What's the biggest unexpected challenge when starting out streaming?
That is a good question. Biggest unexpected challenge. Probably for me, it was realizing that partner wasn't my end goal, and have the challenge of having to readjust my aim. When you first get into streaming, it's like, yeah, partner, that's definitely where I want to end up. But getting hit with that reality of hitting affiliates like getting to level 5, but getting partners getting to like level 100. It's not the 1, 2, 3 step that you think it is when you first get into it. So I had to really adjust where I was aiming, what I was doing, and what I wanted to accomplish when I figured that out. This other one isn't the biggest challenge, but it's one that's definitely unexpected. Get yourself a good chair. You're going to spend a lot of time in it. And I started on a folding chair, and I was not comfortable after 3 hours in that or more. So get yourself a good chair because you're going to spend a lot of time on it, and it'll make a big difference.
All right. Jeff says, I'm debating preparing after COVID for streaming tabletop RPGs in person, but it seems
Oh,
like
cool.
trying to get good audio working with multiple people in person is a much bigger hassle than having everyone stream separately. Have you had any
It, ap-
experience streaming with
oh,
multiple
sorry.
people from the same location? And any
Um, it,
advice or pitfalls? Sorry.
sorry. I kept thinking the question was over.
Yeah.
uh, no, it's a good question. Fantastic question. Yes, it's definitely more complicated. And the reason is because you've got more moving parts. You've got more sound waves bouncing off of other surfaces. You're going to have multiple microphones, which creates the potential for feedback. It's a big hassle. Absolutely not impossible, though. One thing I would recommend doing is if you are going to go that route, most of the time I recommend a Blue Yeti for most streams and things like that. It's a solid mid-range microphone that doesn't cost a ton of money, and I really like it. But if you're going for something like that, I would probably make the switch over to XLR, which is just the microphone cable. So your standard microphone, that little 3-prong plug, that's what that is. So do that and get a soundboard. And that way you can adjust the frequencies, the volumes and whatnot, so you're not getting feedback. And get a couple of mic stands. Mic stands are surprisingly inexpensive. You can get a decent boom stand for about $10. So if you are going for multiple people in a location, it's definitely a little bit more of a financial investment, but you can definitely do it. Biggest pitfalls and things like that are making sure that your microphones are directional, so that it's only picking up the person it's supposed to be picking up, or the two people that it's supposed to be picking up, and make sure that they're not aimed at any speakers or anything like that where you're getting feedback. Experience that I've had, I did try to do a stream with two people on one microphone before, and the trick is just making sure that you're the appropriate distance from the mic. So leaning back or getting too close can affect the volume quite a bit. So if you are using one microphone for multiple people, make sure that it's kind of the opposite, that you have a multi-directional microphone. So one of the things I like about the Yeti is you can adjust the direction. It can be omnidirectional or just one direction, which makes it versatile for things like that. But yeah, aside from that, I'd say just test your audio a lot before you go live, so you make sure everything is set how you want it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's all the questions we have. So if you want to give any closing thoughts and tell people where to find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, you can find me at my link tree, which is, I'm going to throw that in chat. That's linktr.ee/the-ravvyn. And that's where you can find all the other links to different things. Also, I mentioned my tabletop system. It's available for pre-order right now. Second edition is coming out at the end of this month or early next month, depending on a couple of production timelines. But you can find it there, available for pre-order, and it's discounted because of the pre-order thing. So that's something else to check out. I also have all my art commissions and other merchandise and things like that on that shop as well. So it's a cool thing to check out. Also, again, go check out the art show. There's tons of really cool art. Some of my friends have art in there. I have art in there. And the way that they set up the VR for this year is really cool. I was expecting a website that had you click on it, it opens the picture, but you can actually walk around like it's a gallery. It's pretty neat. So definitely check that out. Other things to talk about. Again, if you want to talk about any of this stuff further, definitely feel free to DM me on Twitter or Discord. I'm always happy to chat. If you want actual consulting, if you want me to help you and walk you through stuff, that's something I offer as well. And I do charge on a sliding scale because I know not everybody can afford a lot of consulting. So I try to help as many people as I can. So if that is something that you need, you're not able to figure it out on your own, that's an option. There's a lot of other options out there too, not just me. So definitely don't feel like you have to go with me, but that is something that I offer if you're interested.